Trust Your Struggle is a place of inspiration. We have these conversations with individuals about the monumental struggles that they've had in their life, what they've done to overcome them, how these struggles and what they've done have kind of helped define who they are today. Lettering artist, type designer, illustrator, and all-around badass, Scott tells a story of going through his depression after a health scare. He took a break for several months to work on his mental health, getting back into a routine, started journaling, and creating alone time with his now SelfCare Saturdays. Scott's been working that full-time freelance hustle since he started college. He's put so much time into his career, but now he's learning to refocus some of that into himself.
So my name is Scott Biersack. I am a freelance lettering artist, illustrator, type designer, graphic designer. I try to do a lot of things within the type world, but also broadening into illustration, because I think type and illustration obviously go hand in hand together, and that you can really make a really cool cohesive piece utilizing and understanding both of those worlds. But anyway, I'm 27. I work here out of this space at Brand Loyal, which is right next to Federal Pizza on Central and Camelback, pretty much. I kind of got my start in graphic design when I was a junior in high school. Luckily, my high school somehow had like a graphic design class. And,
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's kind of strange. Of course, I was taking art class from like kindergarten up until that point. And I told myself, I was like, oh, graphic design is pretty much like art. I could get an easy A in this class. So I just put two and two together, and I thought, oh, this will be pretty simple. But little did I know that it's obviously very, very different from art. But I sort of like fell in love with it. So my teacher kind of went through the ASU program, and I think that's sort of like how I continued in this sort of trajectory into the design realm, is that she went through that program, explained a little bit about it. I was like slowly understanding and learning how much I loved design. And then it just kind of felt like a natural transition into continuing that. So of course I went through the ASU design program, which was rigorous and stressful in and of itself. And
Where was this high school at that you did graphic design?
I went to Horizon Community Learning Center, which is a small charter school. Like my graduating class was like 98 kids, maybe 100 kids or something like that. So
That's cool.
yeah, I was in Ahwatukee. I had a good time there. It was a good, I guess, stomping grounds for me to understand like what I like, what I don't like, that sort of thing. And then, yeah, obviously it led me to Arizona State University. And once I finished at ASU, like that's a whole other chunk of my life, of course, is like, grasping design even more and understanding the nuance as to, what is design. And then I sort of like fell into, that's where lettering and illustration and sort of type designs all came to be, is like, I was so sick of the shit we were doing at ASU that I had to like push myself into creating something for myself. And so that's how I got into lettering. I just like sort of stumbled upon some lettering on Instagram when Instagram used to be really cool back in the day, in like 2012 or 2013. And I told myself, I'm going to try and get better at this. And I gave myself this project where I called it Project 365. And I drew a new piece of lettering every single day for an entire year to sort of like practice my craft and like sort of catalog and process my my works that I was creating every day. And it was nice to like, you can scroll to the bottom of my Instagram feed because I was posting all of those, and you can see all the garbage that I was creating. But it was essential into like, pushing my career into what it is now.
Did you have some of those days where you didn't feel like doing it?
Oh, yeah, of course. Like, I feel like it would hit me pretty often, especially towards the end, or even the middle of it. I was just like, what did I get myself into? But I'm also the type of person that just like, once I start something, I have to finish it. So I tried to hold myself accountable. It was kind of a nice way to test myself in the process too. Like, I'm not only creating stuff, but I'm also like seeing how I can prioritize my time and trying to understand how I operate, what my process is. A lot of like finding myself in the process, honestly, which is kind of cool. Like I wasn't intending for that to happen, but it just kind of naturally happened in the process. Um,
And what
and then
inspired you? Like each day you did a different word, right? Um, where did those word inspirations come from to do that for
yeah,
305?
I know. That was definitely difficult to come up with like the content itself, like whatever I was going to draw. I think each day I tried to find something that I was inspired by. So whether that's a movie I watched, lyrics from a song, maybe going to a museum, maybe like at that time I was going through a really shitty. I was going through some depression, I think, but I didn't know it at the time. So, like, my way of coping with that depression was to just busy myself. And there's a word for it, but I can't recall what that is, where you essentially just occupy yourself until, you essentially forget or try and push the bad thoughts away. So, yeah, I tried to do a lot of inspirational and sort of like motivational quotes at the time because I think I kind of needed it too. That's mostly what I was drawing.
Yeah, that's rad. It was really cool because I remember when you did that and just seeing the progression, dude, from when you started to like later on. Like it's
Yeah.
insane. It's very impressive.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, it definitely is. It's very noticeable because when you put in your 10,000 hours, obviously you can see, the vast difference as to, when somebody's just starting and then like, a master at their craft. I don't consider myself a master by any means. I just mean, obviously, you
Just
can
a badass.
see. Yeah, sure. We can go with that. You can see, who's just starting out and who's obviously been putting in the time. So, that's what you gotta do. You gotta put in the time.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but then continuing onward, I think that was like my lettering. And then of course, lettering is kind of like the gateway drug into type design. Um, and so once I finished up the ASU program, I told myself, okay, if I'm going to, learn how to design a typeface, I'm going to go do it in the best way possible. And so that was at the Cooper Union, in New York City. And my girlfriend at the time was wanting to move out there too, so it just kind of made sense. Like, it was like a natural transition point again, and so I just like left school and went straight back to school because my thought was like, if I took too big of a break from school, I wouldn't want to do it again. And turns out that was wrong because then I just last summer I went to Paris for another type design program, so like I'm super hyped on type. And yeah, something about typography is just like, it just gets me going, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. Well, you're definitely killing it. So, when you were going to ASU, did you do any internships or anything like that?
Yeah, so at the time, so Ken and I kept in touch, and she reached out about how they needed an intern at Zion and Zion, which is an advertising agency in Tempe. And so she was a creative director there, and that was a nice connection that I had because that just like worked out perfectly. So I got my internship my freshman year of college when you're not required to get an internship. So that definitely helped, I think, level my skill set up as well because you're not only learning in school but learning on the job and then freelance and pushing myself. I was just doing a lot of shit at the time. Um, so that was pretty nuts. Now that I look back, it's like
Right, that's a
it was
lot.
kind of overkill, and I definitely hit burnout a couple times. Um, but then come junior year, the school ASU requires you to go through an actual internship as like a class, so you get essentially class credit for it. And what I had to do, it was so strange. Like I obviously had this internship or my job at Zion and Zion, but that didn't count towards this class. So I had to go get another internship, which is fine. Like I didn't mind, but it's kind of like ass backwards if you ask me. It didn't make any sense because obviously I already put in the time. I just didn't do it during my junior year instead. So luckily, I had an internship at Nomadic, and I worked with Greg over there when he used to He was a creative director at Nomadic, and I did a lot of stuff for them on like, their Disney client, especially, a couple other smaller things here and there. So it was like an insane opportunity to do that too, as well as everything else that I was doing. It was just kind of like a lot of shit happening all at once. So yeah, it was great.
Oh, you made it through.
Yeah, somehow.
Dude, how was New York?
New York was nuts. I think so. When I first moved out there, I thought, okay, if I'm going to move out to New York City, I got to have a full-time job, because I didn't know what the freelance life would be like, if I could, sustain myself in that city, along with like of course the absurd costs of living. So before I moved out there, I got a job at Stranger and Stranger. And now that I look back at it, it's kind of crazy. I worked at Zion and Zion, and then I worked at Stranger and Stranger. And then shortly after I left there, I was on an artist representation agency called Closer and Closer. So that's kind of like some weird, I don't know how that all happened, but it just all naturally happened that way. But anyway.
One day you're going to have Scott and Scott.
Maybe, who knows? Like I can't escape the ands. So anyway, so I did package design for Stranger and Stranger, and worked with their team there for 3 months, because I was trying to do Stranger and Stranger as well as going to school, and it was really difficult to do both. So I had to make the decision to leave Stranger and Stranger, because I made the moves, mostly for the type design program at the Cooper Union. So that's when I was like, well, if now's the time, like that's when I jumped into full-time freelance, because it just like I didn't have time to go searching for a full-time job, and I also didn't have the time for a full-time job. So I jumped into freelance, just like, again, it was just like a natural transition point where it just kind of made sense. I wasn't necessarily 100% ready, but I was just like, fuck it, let's give it a shot. And I've been freelancing ever since, so everything's good.
Yeah, dude, you made it work. That's ballsy though, right?
It was definitely ballsy. I was a little nervous being in New York City and trying to juggle all that stuff. And that was in 2015 or 2016. So I've been freelancing full time for about 5 years now, but I've been freelancing, all in all for maybe like 8 years. So, damn, it's been a while.
Yeah, for sure.
It's been a while.
It's crazy when you think about it, right?
Yeah. So I don't know if I said I'm 27, so I spent a lot of my time, honing my craft really young, I guess. And now I'm sort of like, right now I feel like I'm in a good point in my life where I'm kind of coasting, trying to figure out like what's next. I'm like, well, obviously I pushed myself just this last summer with the Type at Paris program too, and that was insane. That's a story.
How long were you in Paris for?
That was so unlike Cooper was a year-long program. The Paris program is only 5 weeks. So I was just living abroad essentially for 5 weeks, and then went to Amsterdam after that. So I was like in Europe for 6 weeks pretty much. And it was amazing. It was just like the coolest experience I could ever ask for, and I'm so glad I did it.
Yeah, you think you ever go back?
Oh, for sure. I was planning on going back, but then the pandemic hit, so I got
damn.
It's all good. It's a bummer for this year's class, because they sadly, obviously, are not. They're not doing the program this year. I don't think. I think it was literally possible at all because a lot of people for this program come from all over the country, or all over the world, I should say. So, my class had people from Italy, Norway, Japan, Brazil, just like all over the place, coming to Paris to learn about type design. So it was really cool to like not only learn about type design, but like learn about everyone's cultures and like how they say certain things or act certain ways. And like it was just like a huge sort of awakening for me.
That's rad. Did you meet a lot of good friends out of that?
Yeah, we have a little WhatsApp group, and we just talk all the time, and we still do like Sunday Zoom calls occasionally, and we get to chat and catch up. It's fucking awesome. These are like lifelong friends.
That's badass, dude.
Yeah,
that's really cool. It's good you get to connect with people on that level and from all different countries, and it's like everyone has the same love and appreciation for what they're doing.
Exactly. Yeah, dude. Like
think-
the camaraderie was just like exactly what I needed. I think that was just like enough to like fuel the passion even more because everyone's so stoked on type and everyone's so stoked to be in Paris. And we're all just like stoked to just hang out with each other and, you know, have a good time. And it was just like an experience of a lifetime.
Oh yeah, of course, dude.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's cool. So what about, as a, this whole, what we talk about is like trusting your struggle. What's that monumental point of struggle that you had in your life?
Yeah, many struggles for sure.
Of course.
Like anybody, like that's what life's all about, honestly, is like you got to push through that shit and it obviously makes you a stronger person in the end. I think what was my toughest struggle more recently was about, at this point, it's probably might have been about 3 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago. I had some, like, I guess you could call it like a health scare. Like, I'll just be blatantly honest. I had blood in my stool, and that scared the shit out of me. So it was just like
literally.
it was just one, typical day, and this, event happened, and I think it was just like a huge wake up call for me. So it was like it made me really, really anxious, really depressed, because I'm a very, very conscious of my health. I'm very aware of it, and that sort of like heightened those senses even further. At the time, I was freelancing from my apartment, so the only person I was seeing was my girlfriend at the time and our dog. And I was really depressed. I was really lonely because like I wasn't seeing anybody. I wasn't traveling too much. I still don't have a car after moving back from New York City, so like I don't really get out much other than cycling everywhere. And so
that's the life of a freelancer, though.
Yeah, pretty much. Like I think there's a part of me that obviously wants to get a car, but like I know that I want to save my money, but also like try and save the planet, like because like I think I'm doing my part by like not putting out as many emissions and like just cycling everywhere. But anyway, back to the struggle. So that sort of event happened, and it sort of like made me realize like what's most important. How do I change? Like obviously I found out something's wrong. How do I fix that? And then how do I move forward from there? So a lot of it was a long time coming. Like that happened in November. I stopped working. I couldn't function. I was crying every day. I could barely sleep. I could barely eat. I lost like 10 pounds because of all of the stress, all of the, the lack of eating, the lack of sleep for sure. It all just sort of like compounded and just like really hit hard. And it was just like this one, to other people, I talked about this, and to other people, it seems like such a small thing. But for me in my head, it was this like huge ordeal. And it still is. Like that's when I realized I need to go to therapy for not only this, but for a lot of other things in my life. So it was a wake up call for me to like take care of my mental health. Therapy was one of them for sure. Changing my diet was one of them for sure. And then, having routine. So like something as simple as leaving my apartment, going somewhere, interacting with other people and having that sort of like human connection again. Because I didn't have it for 2 years. Like I was just kind of secluded for so long. And then I just like, this one event was just, just made me realize all this shit that I was doing in my life that obviously wasn't really beneficial. And it was just kind of like, this light bulb went off my head and made me realize all the shit I needed to change. And it's not an overnight thing either. So it like I said, it took me from November until about March. I didn't work. I didn't do anything. I was working on myself, I guess. And luckily I had my savings from, freelance projects and stuff, and things were slow. So I could just pass stuff off to other people, but I just needed that time to sort of like decompress and try and figure out what the hell's going on with, myself, with, what's going on in my head. So even to this day, here we are, 3 years later, pretty much. I still feel the aftermath, I guess, of that, at least mentally. Still a very like stress inducing and very anxious time of my life, and I still am working on it. So I guess I'm trying to preface that, or at least throw that out there so that other people are aware. It's not like, you hit these roadblocks and then you're just like, you get over it instantly. It's not that simple. So
Yeah, it takes a while. So since then, are you taking more time for yourself?
yeah, that's one of the things. Like I think hearing about my crazy sort of school schedule and going to New York City and everything, like I put so much of myself into my career at that time, and now I'm realizing that I'm trying to refocus that time and put more of that time into myself and my community. So whether that's like making time for my family, my friends, and just having like time to just like chill out, like I wasn't hanging out, I wasn't chilling out in high school and college. Like I was just like going, and now I'm finally realizing, like, or at least obviously I pushed my career to this point where I'm like, okay, I think I'm in a good spot where I can like sort of take a step back and makes me realize like what's most important in life, I guess.
Yeah. So what kind of stuff are you doing
So like
outside of work?
a lot of it's therapy for sure. That's definitely the one thing that I've been doing for over a year now consecutively, or consistently, I guess. Other thing is just like journaling. It's kind of another thing of our aspect of therapy is just like maybe it's more of like self therapy in a way, where I can just like I ride my bike to a park or someplace where I can be a little bit secluded, have that time to myself to just like I get my exercise in. I love waking up at like 4:30 or 5 a.m. in the morning and just going for a bike ride. It's just that's like my time to like zen out. So
Yeah.
that's what I've been trying to do. And then I bring my journal with me so that I go and just like write out my feelings, which is like so strange to say, but like it's so fucking helpful to do it.
No, it's totally therapeutic and necessary. I think you got to get that shit out.
Exactly. Cause like if at least the way my therapist like sort of helps me realize is like if you're not writing it out and like, sometimes I'll end up burning a letter or just ripping it up. So that way, like, let's say I'm angry at something or somebody, write a letter and then just burn it. Like you don't have to send it to that person, but it's just a way for me to like subconsciously get it out of my system, I guess, and just like be done with it, be rid of it instead of like holding on to all of that and like feeling it like pent up and like, create this sort of sense of anger or frustration or whatever that, feeling is. That's what I've been trying to do is doing more me time or like taking somewhat recently I've been taking like Saturdays to have like what I call a SelfCare Saturday. So before the pandemic, like this would be, I'd ride my bike to breakfast and then I'd get some breakfast and I'd answer some emails or something. And then I would come back home and play some video games. And then I would like cycle to the movie theater and watch a movie by myself and like whatever that thing may be. So I was like just taking an entire day to be with myself. It's kind of another strange thing, but it was so helpful and so therapeutic because I think a lot of struggles that we go through, we have to understand ourselves in the process so that we can push through whatever this thing is and understand like how you even operate under stress or how you operate in this scenario. So that's what I've been doing. I've been doing a lot of like inward like uh self-talk, motivational stuff to just sort of like, get out of this funk and try and like be more present and all that kind of shit,
Yeah, that self-reflection is huge, and it's really cool that you mentioned about like doing these things by yourself. I think there's quite a few people that are afraid to do that kind of stuff. If you say, "Oh, I went to the movie theater by myself," they look at you crazy, like
Yeah.
you're like you're some dude sitting on the bus talking to yourself, like sort of thing. And like, but there's something about that that's very therapeutic and really helpful, and just be in that moment with yourself.
Yeah, it's so true. I mean, honestly, when I first did it, like my first self-care Saturday, I felt so strange doing all these things by myself because normally, I like to eat breakfast with somebody, you meet up with a friend or whatever, you like to go to a movie with a friend. It's all of that stuff usually accompanies, some kind of social circle of some kind. And it just gets it takes some getting used to. So it's definitely odd at first, but I don't know. I think I'm sort of at peace with it and just realizing like it's totally fine. It's totally normal. It's just like maybe a lot of self-doubt, thinking that, society as a whole probably perceives it one way. And so therefore you're perceiving it the same way. But it's just a matter of like, at the end of the day, kind of like changing your mindset about it. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah. Anyone listening or watching should definitely try it out for at least a month.
Exactly.
And see how it goes and see what comes of it. And, if anyone is listening or watching and you do it for a month, like comment or hit us up and let us know how that was.
Yeah, I'd be curious. I'd be curious to see like what, or like sort of like measuring maybe it's your overall happiness or like whatever that thing is, like seeing how you were a month ago and then comparing it to now after doing all that. Like it's seriously life changing. It's fucking wild. So like, give it a shot. I know it's crazy.
Yeah,
give it a shot.
Yeah. And then there's Animal Crossing.
Yeah. Yes, I love Animal Crossing, dude.
Yeah, that's Scott's other world that he lives in.
That's so true.
Yep, for sure. That's cool. So, is your plan like? I mean, we're not fortune tellers, so we don't know. But you still gonna think you're planning on staying on this freelance path?
Yeah. So that's definitely a tough question. I think, I think when I was going through all that shit, I actually reached out to you, and I reached out to a couple other people. I was just like, hey, I think I need a full-time job because, at the time I was like, I just didn't know what to do. I just thought, I need to be around people. I also need like the sanity of knowing where my paycheck's going to come from, that sort of thing. And anyway, to answer your question, I think I'm sort of in that spot again where I'm like freelance is great. Don't get me wrong. I fucking love every aspect of it. But I also question if I'm like ready for something completely different. Am I ready for the next step in my career? Am I ready for, being a part of a team again? Because I just work with it's just me, myself, and I here. I'm not really working with the team. I'm not really working with other people other than, when a client comes to me and says, hey, can you do X, Y, and Z?
Well, and you've been grinding hard, dude, for like the past 8 years, 8 years.
Yeah, exactly. It'd be kind of nice. Like I've been contemplating it more and more, especially now with the pandemic. Like I'm a little nervous about, how freelance is going to be, even in like right now. Luckily, I have a couple projects, but like, what's it going to be like in 4 months? What's it going to be like next year? Like, so I'm trying to be proactive, and I'm definitely open to those opportunities right now. But I don't want to say yes, I'm moving to full-time freelance. I'm definitely like, I'm open to it.
Right. Yeah, exactly. You're keeping your options open.
Yeah, exactly.
And so like with your work, with a freelance, outside of your client work and freelance work, do you do any other type of work just for yourself?
More recently, I've been trying to learn the guitar. So
oh shit, nice.
I got an acoustic Fender guitar, and I've just been like, I needed another creative outlet that wasn't design. Another way for me to sort of like get these emotions out. And I've been trying to like get more into music. I know nothing about music. I know absolutely nothing. And so, especially now with this pandemic going on again, I just have the time. So I bought a guitar, and that's one of the things I've been doing. Other than that, yeah, Animal Crossing, I guess.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. And so you've never played guitar before. This is the first time you've picked up a guitar and played it?
This is the very first time. Nice. I was just telling myself, like, I want to make some music. For some reason, I have this like weird creative urge to do it. And I just thought guitar might be like a good first step. And, maybe at some point I'll get into piano and like then just somehow learn how to, produce a song. I don't know. Like, I know it's going to take, I gotta start from ground zero again and, make my way up again. So I got to put in my 10,000 hours, which kind of sucks, but that's just the process.
Pretty soon it'll be like 365 days of Scott's songs.
Dude, I actually thought about doing that, like recording myself playing. So that way, again, it's just like another way for me to push myself to practice every day and, watch the progression again. So
Where are you doing lessons at?
I'm just watching, like, luckily, buying this guitar, they give you 3 months free of lessons online through Fender. So I've just been watching Fender video tutorials.
Oh, the Fender Play?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Nice.
So far,
That's
so
awesome.
good, I guess. I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I'm just like, yeah, I guess I'll play these strings a couple times.
And so what kind of music do you normally listen to?
It's funny, I have an acoustic guitar, but I listen to heavy metal like every day of my life. So I think a lot of that, stems from some other events that have happened in my life. And, like, again, that pent up aggression and anger sort of, like, allowed me to really love this music, love this rock and roll, but also heavy metal music. And
Yeah.
I don't know. It's interesting to see that, and then to be, like, also interested in, like, the softer side of things too. So I'm a little bit both sides of the spectrum, I guess.
That's cool. You might have a metal band someday.
Who knows?
Maybe graduate into electric, and then you'll be unstoppable.
I know. That'd be really cool. One day I hope to do that too.
Yeah, it'll do a band.
Yeah, who knows? I have no idea. I'm open to anything.
So with your work, what kind of stuff inspires you? Is it music, or is it art? Like art? Is it history? Like where do you get your inspiration from?
That's a good question. I think every project obviously is a little different, because obviously every project has its own tone and its own voice, its own, goal that it's trying to achieve. But, like, I guess more personally, or, like, for my own work,
Yeah.
I tend to, like, maybe get inspired probably by a lot of it's from music. So a lot of it's just lyrics from other bands, and I feel like a lot of it I may resonate with at the time. And and that's the thing, like, being full-time freelance, it's so hard to, like, carve out the time to do shit for myself too. Like, when I first got started, I had all the time in the world, so I was like, yeah, I'm creating all this shit for myself, and I was, like, painting skateboards and drawing on chalkboards and, like, doing all this crazy shit. But more recently, I haven't really had that much time. So I think the most recent post that I did for myself was something that I wrote myself, and then I drew it myself, which is kind of like a really liberating feeling to know that, like, I created every aspect of this piece, and I didn't, like, take somebody else's words and, repurpose them and that kind of thing. So I've definitely been getting into writing a lot, and maybe that's how I've sort of opened up this path into music. I'm not quite sure, but I'm really digging it. So
That's awesome.
I'm gonna keep going with it.
Yeah. I feel like I've been definitely working on over the last year, working on music as well. I used to play in bands, 16 years old, I think, is when I started, playing in bands and stuff, and did that for a really long time. And then life happened and put a stop to it.
Yeah.
But, was just inspired to do something creatively different about a year ago. And it's been a lot of fun, and it's nice to a lot of the stuff that I do is still on the computer, but it's being on the computer and doing something different.
Yeah, of course, dude. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I want to hear some of your stuff.
All right, dude. I'll send you some stuff over. You can check it out. So
I would love to.
It's definitely up your alley for sure, I think.
Okay.
So,
dope.
Yep.
I'm into it.
But it's been a lot of fun. So, so what, before we close this out, I'd love to get your thoughts on any advice for someone who's listening or watching, and something that you might give a shout out to them.
Oh shit. Man, that's tough. I think if anything, the one piece of advice that I like to give to students in, like, those sort of lost, I guess, or trying to find their way, is something I did myself, is that I would compare myself to these, designers or illustrators or whoever that have been in the game for, 10, 15, 20 years. And at least what I was doing was I was trying to push myself so much that I could try and achieve that level in 2 or 3 years. Right. So it was overkill. So I think, like, my advice is to just take your time and explore you and yourself and what you like and what you want to do, because all of that stuff will just come naturally and come with time. I was trying to force it a lot at first, and I realize that now, because obviously I was just like burning it at both ends. And it wasn't healthy. It wasn't the best route to take, but at the same time, I obviously learned from my mistakes. So, it is what it is, but I think my piece of advice would be to take your time with it. Feel free to draw shit for yourself. Making a personal project is like the key to success in the design world. If you ask me, like everybody that has some form of crazy, maybe stardom or virality or whatever that word is that you decide to choose to sort of like show this exponential growth, a lot of that has started from a personal project. So I think that's the one thing I want to push, because like the one crazy story that still blows my mind today is, I don't know if you saw it. Did you see the Detective Pikachu movie?
No.
So the artist that created all those Pokemon renderings drew them in his free time on his own, posted them to Twitter. He just I think he's like a concept artist, and he would like normally draw like dinosaurs and some other like life-size sort of work, like showing the scale of like what a dinosaur is next to a human or something. So he did the same thing. There's a term for drawings like that, but I don't know what it's called off the top of my head. But he did the same thing with these Pokemon. And obviously somebody from the Detective Pikachu movie saw this dude's work and hired him. So then he worked on this movie. And that is just like, I just want to applaud him, because I'm like, that personal project led to a really cool, legit, freelance gig or even full-time gig, whatever that may be. And that's just one example. So like, I've got tons of examples, but again, to reiterate, personal projects, take your time drawing for yourself. I guess that's it.
For sure. Yeah. I'm a strong believer in show the shit that you want to get hired for.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because that's what's getting put out there, and people are going to see that and they're like, oh, I'd love to get something like that, or they're inspired by that. And
right.
You never know where it could lead to. So, and you're having fun doing it too. Like, you're not losing out on anything, because you're going to do it anyway.
That's the best part about it, dude. I mean, I think that's how I got into what I'm doing now, is like, I'm doing it because I enjoy it. And like, of course, every kid in my program from ASU that was graduating, we all had the same cookie cutter portfolios, but mine was completely different because I'm doing lettering. And I didn't show any of the shit that I did from ASU because I hated all this stuff.
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, just do what you love, I guess. That's kind of what it comes down to.
That's good advice for anyone who's in school with a portfolio, is to do personal projects outside of your school work and show that kind of stuff to you.
Exactly.
Because everyone's going to be showing the same kind of stuff. It's just regurgitated in a different way, but
exactly, dude. All
the same shit. So, well, dude, I really appreciate you hanging out, man. This was really rad. So, if anyone wants to follow you, where can they find you at?
I am at You Bring Fire all over the interwebs. All the social media. My personal portfolio site is also youbringfire.com.
Nice. Yeah, check out Scott's badass work. He is a badass for sure. So
thank you.
That's awesome. Yeah, dude. Thanks a lot, man.
All right, man. Take care.